and welcome to this week's Stalking the Wild Autoharp, where we're going into week 5, I think, of week 4 of blues playing. And today I'm going to give you some minor chords that you can add to the power chords that I taught you last week, all right? And the way this works, last week I taught you to use 2 majors that have 2 buttons in between them, all right? Now again, all of this is going to depend on your layout, but most autoharps have the majors laid out in the same pattern, which is a circle of fifths. So in this case, I'm using the key of A, which is here, A major, and then I'm using a C chord, which has, as you can see, there are 2 empty buttons in between them, all right? And that's what we did last week, all right? But this week what we're going to do is we're going to add what's called the parallel minor, okay? And that's easy to remember. The parallel minor is the minor that has the same name as your major. So in this case, A minor, which on my harp is up here, all right? And that's why I'm using A, because it's way down here at the bottom, all right? And it gives me plenty of room to have minors at the top, because I'm also going to use my D minor. When I change to my 4 chord, I'm going to shift both of these fingers up here like this. So that's pretty much it. I go A minor, A, A minor, A. And if you remember back when I was teaching about major and minor chords and using the piano to show you, I showed you that the difference between a major chord and a minor chord is the middle note, because a major chord uses the 1, 3, and 5 of the scale, and the minor chord just takes that 3 and moves it down a half a step. All right, and so what we're doing is we're playing 3 notes, 2 of which remain the same between the 2 chords, the outer 2, and the inner one just slides up and down by a half step. Change to the 4 chord. And the 5 chord you're going to use, in this case, E and E minor. And once again, you have to skip when you go from the 5 to the 4, you got to skip over the 1. Okay, so you're jumping up two rows. All right, so you keep your fingers equidistant from each other, and you play A and A minor, and then you play D and D minor, and then you skip over and you've got the E and the E minor, and then you skip back over the A and go to the D and the D minor, and then back to the A and the A minor again. And you'll see that I'm using the side of my thumb for that one. It's a little bit easier than doing this stretch or this stretch, okay? Because you have to have a really big hand. And you can do that, but I use the side of my thumb, and it makes it pretty easy to do that. And you're keeping your fingers equidistant as you slide them up and down like this to do that. So you use A and A minor, D and D minor, and E and E minor for your 1 and 1, 4, 5. But you might have different keys down here. You might have the key of D here, you know, or you might have the key of G here, or the key of well, probably D or G or A. Now, I can go all the way to my bottom key, which on my harp is pretty good, and use E. A lot of people don't have E on their harps, though. So. Now, I don't usually use this permutation by itself a whole lot. I'll either mix with that major that's right next to it that we learned last week, so that I'm doing the two that are two apart, like that, or I'll mix it with the blues that are just down in the one area that we learned in the previous weeks. So I'm mixing all of these different types of blues sound to get the blues that I want to play in that particular piece. And each kind has its own flavor, all right? So this is the last installment of blues that I'm going to give you until I get into diminished seventh chords and then the Prism Autoharp, which is going to come online later, and I'm going to talk about that in later episodes. But I wanted to show you these basic styles and not give you a lot of, here's how you play this song. I'm just giving you the tools that I use to put blues together. All right, and it's those different layers. To recap, you've got I use the 4/7 trick, the 4/7 of every chord to play scales. And then there's the trick where you use the relative minor and go through that in going to the 1/7. So you go 1, relative minor, 1/7, relative minor, 1. Like that, okay? Or, to get that kind of sound. And then there's the power chords that we learned last week that are 2 and 3 apart. And there's the parallel minor that we learned this week. All right, so I use all of those different ones and I mix them and match them depending on what I want to hear. And I've learned the difference in sound. And that's how I know. A lot of my students ask me, well, how do I know which one to use? You have to learn what the different ones sound like and how to mix them up in order to get the quality that you want. Now, a lot of blues, we think of bending notes. Harmonicas, slide guitars, regular guitars, they bend notes. Saxophones. They bend notes, and the voice can bend the notes and play all these in-between notes. An autoharp is more like a piano, all right? It can't bend the notes, but you can do slides. Like that, by using some open chord. Okay, and that's similar to how a pianist would give the illusion of bending notes. That's how a pianist does it, and you can apply that and play with that idea in your blues playing too. And think in terms of piano blues, and you'll be closer than guitar blues, because guitar blues, obviously, guitar is a great instrument to do blues on. But autoharp is a little bit closer in sound to what you would get if you were playing blues on a piano, because the notes don't bend. And so There it is. So thanks for tuning in for this series of lessons on blues auto harp. As you see, a standard chromatic is all you need to play blues. All right, and you don't need a fancy prism auto harp. I use a prism, and it gives me minor sevenths and ninths, which are even more bluesy sounding, and I love it. And when I get around to teaching about the prism, I will show you some of that, I'm sure. Okay, so I'm Hal Weeks. I have a website, halweeks.com. That's where you can go if you want to sign up for private lessons with me. I'd love to work with you. I have a number of students in different places in the world now, and I so much appreciate their faith in me. And I've got a lot of people who are just learning from these lessons that I'm making videos of, and I get a lot of feedback that it's helping them a lot. So that's really exciting for me. Subscribe if you haven't already. Subscribe to this series so that you get all the updates the minute they happen, because I try to post just about every week. So thanks for tuning in. I'm Hal Weeks, and I'm stalking the wild auto harp. Bye-bye.